I found out about Sadhguru on my own, and I remember I stopped following him on purpose because, I was a bit skeptical.
Yeah.
Okay, this is someone who claims to be a guru trying to monetize on people. I was very prejudiced. And then I saw his face, and I saw something about the inner engineering, and I was intrigued at that time. Instead, it was mind-blowing for me. I don't know, it touched me in a way that I haven't felt anything else touch me in as well, because it was a totally new beginning for me, because I had never looked at life in that way before. And because literally it's like someone's drawing the bullshit out of you. At the same time, if I just sit down and look back, nothing is the same. I never thought in my life that such a day would come where I wouldn't have suicidal thoughts, because if I hadn't done these practices, my life wouldn't look the way it is. It is like, what Sadhguru's tools has given me and what he's given me is a complete new life, And especially my grandmother, she's not with us anymore, but she was always a bit skeptical about these things, and my grandfather as well. But he's like, yeah, that yoga is good for you. Okay, good for you, right? We know there's a lot of changes. It's good for you. Well, but if you're doing it in a Swedish family, so to speak, it's like, what sound are you making? They're like, oh, what are you on? Yeah, I did try I did attempt to take my life 2 times.
This was when?
The first time I was forced in taking out, because at that time people knew I did try it. The suicidal thoughts, because they still resided within me, even though I failed my first attempt. And I was on quite a lot of medications. By the end of 2019, I think I was taking 8 or 9 medications daily. 40s, and it just gives me the chill to the bones, And I didn't really want to work in the bar again, both up and down. So I would say that if you're having these challenges with ADHD or ADD or autism, apart from the practices, you really need to look after yourselves in all the other aspects of day-to-day life as well, because I know, there's simple things, but also the most difficult things. I stopped smoking cigarettes. It's the first time visiting India. It was I feel at home in that climate, I found out about Sadhguru on my own. Actually, I recognized him at first when I saw it was some kind of ad or something on YouTube, or if it was on Facebook. I had followed him on Facebook before.
Okay.
And I remember I stopped following him on purpose because, I was a bit skeptical.
Yeah. Skeptical in the sense?
Well, at that time, I probably was thinking, okay, this is someone who claims to be a guru trying to monetize on people. I was very prejudiced. Not very prejudiced. It was more like whenever I would see a clip, I would go eventually go just, and then just click on follow or something. Not that I was making predictions or anything, but it was just my mindset. But then by the end of 2020, I saw, I don't know what it was, I don't remember. It was some kind of advertisement or clip or some post. And then I saw his face, and I saw something about the inner engineering. And I was intrigued at that time instead, because prior to that, I had kind of a month or 2 where I would start to feel more energized. Well, probably since the summer. This was by December. So from the summer 2020 till December 2020, I would actually start getting my emotional balance up and starting to feel more like a little bit more joyful and curious about things happening in my life and trying to like explore things. So I saw that anyways, and I was intrigued by it. And I've seen these kind of there are all of these kind of self-helping courses and things, and I was like, okay, but this felt different from anything that I'd seen before, and I didn't really know what it was because I didn't really explore that much. But anyways, Christmas was coming around, and I didn't have a lot of money, and so it was on discount. For I think at that time it was 50%, then it was 50 or 60 euros. So I asked my mother, like, well, if you want to give me a Christmas present, this is something that I find really interesting. And eventually she took the bait, and I got it. So January 2021, I started the inner engineering process. But at this time, inner engineering and the Shambhava initiation was two complete different things.
Engineering online.
Yeah, inner engineering online, that's what I did. Exactly. So that's basically how I got into Sadhguru and got to find out what Isha was as well. That came a bit later because I didn't really see the connection between the two at first.
So how was the experience actually?
Mind-blowing.
Inner engineering.
It was mind-blowing for me. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's so hard to put words on it, but what I felt when I had finished watching the first episode, I think it was divided into 5 episodes at that time, which is modules. Yeah.
7 modules actually.
Okay, 5 or 7. And I just felt blown away by it. It's like someone took the curtain away. Like, if you speak of it like that, that's how I felt about it. And I don't know, it touched me in a way that I haven't felt anything else touch me in as well, because it felt so real. Because it's not like someone comes and give you $500 like, oh, I can do this and this with that. It's more like, wow, I actually feel this. So it was more of an experiential.
More empowered.
Yeah, definitely.
During COVID time, I can. So when we were working actually, volunteering for this inner engineering online to bring it to many more people, especially people are bound unexpectedly at home. A lot of relationships, issues, many things people have to handle at the same time. Besides the COVID, that original issue as a Weimar. When we were working, when inner engineering online was introduced, Sadhguru had mentioned, in addition to being initiated into Shambhava Mahamudra by this inner engineering online, these modules itself, like this can be really a revelation for someone, especially for people with very logical wounded. So for them, it could be a biggest freedom when they will undergo these modules. So that when I'm listening to your experience, it's totally fascinating.
I would definitely say so, because I've always been a very logical person. If I can't understand why something happens, it doesn't make sense. And it was a huge revelation for me going through these modules and the inner engineering program, because I mean, it was made so simple that there's no way I couldn't perceive what he was trying to transmit. And it's like, if you go by the literal sense like that, because the tools provided and what it includes was like, it's been here all the time. And I don't know, it was just like someone was reading a book aloud to me, and I was just soaking in the entire book into myself. And then, like, if you put it in a imaginary sense, like you could express the whole book like that. That's how it felt like for me, because it was a totally new beginning for me, because I had never looked at life in that way before. And I don't think I ever experienced life in that way before, not at least for a continuous amount of time, or like consciously, like this is because of this or that, this and that. But it had a huge impact on me, and I felt a great sense of freedom after doing the program as well. I didn't really read through, like, from what I've understood, it's supposed to be done 7 days in a sequence. It probably took me a month to complete it, because I felt it was extremely overwhelming as well. Like, it was so potent that I was reluctant to begin the next episode. because literally it's like someone's drawing the bullshit out of you, and you're just standing there to watch it go away. That's kind of how it felt.
I think this is one of the best Christmas presents you would have ever had.
Definitely. And it was mind-blowing, totally. I remember you and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and you were so surprised when I told you about, like, wow, inner engineering was like probably the biggest experience online. And then I heard Sadhguru say something about that, and you'd never heard someone in person say that. So I was like, wow, is it?
So then you got initiated into Shambhavi Mahamantra.
Shambhavi was actually standalone package. Like, it was called Inner Engineering Completion. So it was during the same month as Mahashivratri. So it was in March that year, the end of March. And I didn't really know what Shambhavi was, because it wasn't really mentioned during that online program. And I didn't really do a lot of research about it. I saw some YouTube videos. I'm like, okay. And then I saw that you could do In the Grace of Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I had limited financial resources, so I had to choose between the two. And I'm not one to necessarily always finish when I begin. But I read the contest and I'm like, okay, this is because I was intrigued to actually do some physical practices or something, because I found out about Isha Kriya after I did engineering. So I did that a couple of times, and
Okay.
but other than that, I didn't really know any like yogic practices. So I felt that was missing. I did some stretching, like follow along on YouTube's, but still something was missing. So I went with the inner engineering completion, despite not knowing what it was. So I got in, after completing that, I was initiated to Shambhavi Mahamantra Kriya in the end of March 2021.
So you never had any yoga before inner engineering?
No, not at all.
No.
I've always had in the back of my mind, like, well, maybe I should try yoga. Like a lot of Western people that do.
The Western type of yoga.
Yeah, well, but I had like no idea what it was beyond like doing stretches. Yeah, but that was what yoga was in my mind. Never in a million years would I have considered yoga being something that you do with eyes shut and you just like all of these things that we go through in engineering. If you would have asked me, is this yoga? I'm like, no, this is talking. But if you ask me, no, definitely yoga.
Yeah.
Then you have choose between
Right?
Shambhavi over.
Yeah. And today I'm happy I made that choice, because I might not have done the same choice again later on. So I'm happy I went through with inner engineering in that sense.
How was that experience?
It was a lot of struggle initially, actually. Partially because my body I was pretty stiff, and my posture's always been very poor. And I didn't really grab the potency of it, what it was. And I started to feel like to be honest, I started to feel like things were going a little bit back to the way they were before. Like a lot of anger would rise up. I would feel very lost and misplaced. I still kept going with the practice. I struggled with the mandala for a very, very long time. Actually, it took me almost 2 years before I completed my mandala.
And just like I said, I didn't really realize what it was.
So sometimes when I would just feel restless, I would put headphones in and have running rivers and bird songs in my headphone. And sometimes I would have AC/DC in the background because I didn't really know what just like to sit. Because I had always been on the move. So that took me some time to realize, like, okay, that's not how it's supposed to be done.
Did we speak the first time in 2021 or 22? No? For the first time when you called me sometime.
I think we spoke in 2021, perhaps. No, I think 2021 or 2022 was spoken. Yeah, somewhere in between there. But I kept going.
Something similar that I remember that I
Yeah.
got from you, like
We probably spoke by the end of 2021. Because actually, I know we had mail contact around 2021, not deliberately speaking like this, because I heard about the program called Surya, the Hatha Yoga program. So I saw an email that I mailed about Hatha teachers, and I remember, I think it was you that mailed me back on it.
I don't remember probably, but
But it's such a small thing at that time.
Probably you have emailed Isha Sweden ID, and then most probably you have replied.
Yeah,
well, it at the local country ID. Now it has been handled, I mean, centralized way.
So I kept going with Shambhavi throughout that time. There were some days where I would skip it and not prioritize. And then I got to learn Surya Kriya. And I was struggling back and forth. The main struggle with me was that throughout my life, I've always have been difficulties being consistent with something, you know? Like deciding I'm gonna do this and then I stick to it. It's always been extremely difficult with a lot of things. But somehow I still kept with the practice. I knew I didn't do the mandala. I didn't do it twice every day. I still had the intention to do it. And I would fall back on the 7th day or the 14th day, sometimes the 20th day. Damn, the stomach condition was a huge issue. Especially as a single parent, this was very difficult.
That I really wanted to ask. With a small, like your little angel at
She was free. She had just turned free when I got the next year.
learning parenting time.
Yeah. So the first session, like basically for me, it felt like I was stealing her quality time with me when I was doing this for 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then it was like, okay, so am I gonna skip dinner to do the practice, or am I gonna do the dinner and might skip the practice? Kind of that scenario for me. But so it was difficult to find a way to navigate through all of this. But I kept with it, and as I said, it took me almost 2 years before I did the mandala.
So, like after Surya Kriya, that have you done any other advanced programs?
I have done the Shoonya program. I did that in the end of 2022. And along with that, I was still not done with my Shambhavi mandala. Okay. And I was doing the mandala during that program, and then I fell back one day. So I'm like, oh, I'm so close now. Am I ever gonna get this? And then I started with the practices that we learned in Shoonya program, the Shakti Sadhana Kriya. And I fell back again and again and again. So I learned it in the middle of December. So by the mid of February 2023, I completed both mandalas together. And the most extreme part about that was I was studying full time. I was having my daughter, and I was doing 2 mandalas at the same time.
Oh my God.
But I still managed to get everything done.
That's really wonderful.
So when I did that, I was like, how could I struggle so much with doing this Shambhavi mandala? Because it wasn't as demanding. It was more than twice the time that I spent now when I did that mandala. So that was like a moment for me, like, well, I really know I can do things.
Yeah.
And then I was on and off with the Surya Kriya practice all the time. So I did a mandala of that alone as well. Just to kind of get it,
Yes.
So that was a highlight for me. And a couple of months later, I think it was in April 2023, I went to do Bhavaspandana.
Wow.
I did both the Shoonya and Bhavaspandana in Germany. So I knew that they had been having advanced programs. This was prior doing the Shoonya program, that they had advanced programs in Germany before the pandemic. And I knew they started with them again in India. But going to India is quite a trip, especially if you have to arrange with childcare and things, especially when she was so small. So that felt very remote for me. So I was hoping that they would have the advanced programs in Germany, and then they announced them. And
In 2023.
yeah,
Again in
2022, the first time, they had both Bhavaspandana and the Shoonya. So I got into the Shoonya program, and then they announced it again for 2023. Bhavaspandana in April for the ants, for the men. So I went there again.
It's wonderful, really.
Yeah.
how was your DSP experience now?
It kind of felt like a homecoming in some ways.
Okay.
Because people talk about these crazy experiences and whatnot, but for me, it kind of felt like a part of me actually got to live it out in an environment where no one would judge you. Like you could be yourself. But I think it was a profound experience in many ways, and it's definitely something that helped me grow. And something that I took with me was like, I'm actually capable to do things, regardless whatever I think of my own capabilities. But the coolest thing for me about BSP was actually when I went to volunteer the same year, in December. I went for BSP in April 2023, and I went to volunteer in December 2023. And that experience was a lot more intense for me, actually.
As a volunteer, your experience is more intense than the actual participant.
Like 1,000-fold more intensive than being a participant. Not only because of how the program is structured, but because, like, when you're volunteering the Isha programs, like, the programs are set up in such a way that the volunteers have a huge impact on how the participants receive the program. And because of my experience of the Bhavaspandana program and whatever happened inside the program was intensive, and it had big impact on me. Like, this has to happen to someone else. So that's like supercharges me into just throwing myself and all I have into it.
Quite true.
And like, there's no tomorrow, And it was so intensive, both like mentally and physically and experientially. But it was a fantastic experience. And I just saw that they announced Bhavaspandana this year in April. So I'm actually thinking about going volunteering for that as well.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I would like to ask you, Anna, because you mentioned sometime before that you had suicidal thoughts from quite an early age, and you had them for quite a long time. Those might feel like the lowest points in your life, but how did you cope with them? And now when you've done these advanced programs or the tools that Sadhguru has given us, how do you have you seen this change happening in you, and what is the kind of change that you've noticed?
Like on a day-to-day basis, like in general,
Mm-hmm.
apart from the suicidal thoughts, like how I am, I don't necessarily feel like so many things have changed every day. At the same time, if I just sit down and look back, nothing is the same.
Mm.
It's like the whole past is, the way I function in the past has been obliterated. And especially when it comes to handling emotional things, huge things that happens, I don't know, traumas or whatever might happen. The way I'm able to handle those things are out of this world compared to how they were before. Before I would get so distressed, anxiety, I wouldn't be able to sleep, eat, all of these things. And today I'm more like trying to keep a distance to it and try to see things for what they are rather than what I think they are.
You're consciously able to keep them aside and look at them.
A lot of the times, yes. Not necessarily all the times, but I'm definitely able to remind myself of the tools. And by that also coming to a point, it's just a matter of time, really. I always come to the point where I'm able to just keep a distance and see it for what it is. But like with the suicidal thoughts, they're non-existent today. I never thought in my life that such a day would come where I wouldn't have suicidal thoughts, because they got so integrated with me. And it became like day-to-day food, so to speak. And you kind of just got used to it, having it sit on your shoulders all the time. And to not experience that today is just can't put words on it. It's such a freedom.
It's really wonderful to know that the things that you thought were a kind of a burden is not present there right now.
Yeah.
So that is.
I feel that, sometimes I can find myself thinking about the practices, like, oh, I have to do this today. Like, actually having that thought or feeling like it's some kind of burden. But then when I come to think about it, it's like, if I hadn't done these practices, my life wouldn't look the way it is.
It is
like,
okay.
What Sadhguru's tools has given me, and what he's given me, is a complete new life, And my daughter definitely wouldn't have a parent like the kind of parent that she has today either. So
More balanced and more.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I might shoot to all different directions still sometimes, but no way near what it has been before. And one of the changes that I've noticed, things that surprised me, is actually that my grandfather, and especially my grandmother, she's not with us anymore, but she was always a bit skeptical about these things, like, and my grandfather as well. But he's like, yeah, that yoga is good for you.
Okay.
Good for you, right? We know there's a lot of changes. It's good for you.
Wow.
And like, if I ever told him before, like, I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes, like, okay, what are you gonna do? Now he's like, okay.
Okay. So he's comfortable.
Yeah, or me and my daughter are visiting him. I'm like, could you tend over my daughter for half an hour? Are you gonna do some yoga? Yeah, I have some practice. Yeah, no worries. And then I can hear from the top floor, like, I'm gonna go up to dad. No, you're staying down here. So to see that reaction from him of all people is like, okay, there are more things happening around me than what I am able to grasp myself.
That's really wonderful. And
So
the today's generation, they could really see in their own eyes, they can witness
Yeah.
The miraculous.
I never thought such a day would come where I would hear him talking about the benefits of what I'm doing. He's only seen me doing some asana or sitting for Shoonya meditation once or twice. And, for me, it was like doing the practices when I'm around someone else was kind of, I think that has a bit to do with what I went through earlier with the bullying. Like, you're doing something out of the normal or ordinary. I mean, if you're in the ashram, it's totally, everyone is doing it. But if you're doing it in a Swedish family, so to speak, it's like, what sound are you making? They're like, oh, what are you on about? So that kind of stuck with me for many, many years. It's actually first since before I went to the ashram in Samyama now this year that I actually been comfortable doing sounds and things and doing Shoonya, and there are still people around me because I don't feel like I'm being judged or picked at. And that's also a huge freedom. It's like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? They're gonna make a comment about me sounding like a bird or something like that? Okay, let it be.
Yeah.
Because I rather think they have me in good company, it sounds weird, than that I just be quiet and just be
Hearing your relatives or anyone in the surroundings, like have they started noticing, actually, your friends and family, that any changes or the transformation that is happening within you?
Definitely. They fade. Like if I'm asking, like if I'm still telling them I'm going away for a couple of days, I'm not gonna have any phone on me. They're not like, oh, how am I gonna reach you? They're not word like that. It's like, okay, are you going for some yoga program? I'm like, yes. No, okay. It's no fuss. It's no big deal. In the beginning, it was a little bit like, ooh.
They were worried about you in the beginning. Yeah.
No. Well, they were more skeptical than worried. Because, like yoga and meditations, sometimes they're often associated with occult things, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you're gonna do tantra or these things. I mean, they didn't ask me that, but I've heard other Isha meditators and friends having these questions, and the prejudices turned against them. But it probably took a year or maybe two before they kind of got the grasp of
What you're doing.
yeah. I don't think they have any idea of what I'm doing really, but until they got to see the fruit that it bears.
Yeah. So they have seen you transform from what you were and to what you are now.
And most of all, they're also very, like I mentioned earlier, like being consistent has always been a huge struggle for me. And that's something they've seen with me as well. I think they're probably thinking like, wow, he's super consistent with this. And I've never, ever in my life been so consistent with anything as much as I've been with the practices. I mean, there have been days where I've been sick, where I've been puking. Like, all of the practices are, still on. There has been an occasion where I just passed out in my bed because of high fever. I mean, I woke up the next day, I missed what to do. Just get on it again. So that's been my mindset. It's never been a question of quitting, stopping, not doing it. Just, I'll do whatever I can do with whatever I can.
This is also that when you said about the myths around yoga, how it is being perceived in the Western world, or many people also, even in India or outside. But I think it is really that Sadhguru really uniquely giving to the world. I think it's a present just in the purest form of yoga, only with its science, purest science.
Yeah. It's also the way I perceive Isha and Sadhguru. It's not about reaping benefits. It's more about how can you make yourself and in turn the world into a better place that's conducive and bears fruit for everyone. whether you hate the people around you or not, like how can you improve their lives apart from your own? And the tools from inner engineering are some that I've been practicing quite heavily during my line of work sometimes. Okay, like yeah, there have been instances where I've had a colleague or not that just goes on, nabs at you and things, and like okay, and you just kind of remind yourself of certain things, and with that you can have more clarity in how to move forward and handle people around you as well.
I think the inner engineering class course are the tools. They're like guideline for me.
They really, I think.
It's think yes
Yeah, definitely.
for everyone of us.
But what one thing that I have to say is actually that I don't do Isha Kriya very often anymore, but I do it occasionally. And I did that before Shambhavi, and that had quite a big effect on
I
me.
wanted to ask, yeah,
So
how was the experience?
it would, like for me, I've always been extremely identified with both the body, partially because I've been really overweight most of my life. I'm not now, but I have been before, like huge. And then also with the mind, just like I said, the suicidal thoughts, the bullying, like feeling like a weirdo, all of these things. So it's the body and the mind, like both heavy identifications.
Heavily influenced also.
Yeah, so for me, just that meditation going on, like you're not the body, you're not even the mind, was such a relief in a way. And then just focusing on the certain aspects that are going on for the practices. So it was also a bit like the experience from the inner engineering programs. That was probably the first time that I ever knew that I kind of felt like in the relaxed, calm, what most people call meditative state. So, but it was also the first experience where I realized that I wasn't very fit in my body to sit across.
Yeah, the extra limbs. But what limbs did it? I want, like if you don't know. Like, I mean, you mentioned about the suicidal thoughts many a times. Like, besides having the thoughts, like, have you ever really were in that crisis mode or?
Where I actually gone to try it. Yeah, I did try I did attempt to take my life 2 times.
This was when?
The first time was in 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016. I was 23 at that time. And the last time was, I believe, 3 years later.
But then you ask somebody for help or somebody intervene?
The first time I was forced into taking help because at that time people knew I did try it. I was at the mental, what's the word? Mental emergency facility for a couple of days before I was signed out. And then I got sent to psychiatry where I had to meet. I had some kind of counseling. And that was probably the first time I really spoke openly, at least to like the mental health care facility about it. Otherwise than that, I had never really spoken about that I ever had. Was close to trying or anything like that. And so I spoke with that person. I don't know if it was 6 sessions. And I was working at the same time, so I went down to 50% sick leave, 50% work, and doing that for some time. And and then I got to start to take some medications and things like that. I got medicated from ADHD again, and I saw a nurse quite often. I think I saw her once a month or once every 2 weeks. She checked my blood pressure and things like that. Then I started talking to her because they told me that there were no psychiatrists available for counseling. they didn't have enough resources, but I knew there were other people getting the same kind of treatment as me who got to see them, which I found very weird. And I started to speaking to her openly about the suicidal thoughts because they still resided within me, even though I failed my first attempt. And like, the way I got met was so awful. I started losing all faith, actually, at that time in like what the caregivers could provide, because
The system.
yeah, the system. Because like, oh, people don't commit suicide out of anxiety and this and that. I was questioning it, and it was so awful. Yeah. And I was like, I couldn't really believe the way she was, coming to me about that. Yeah. So I kind of felt like scared to talk about it again, because when I have finally opened up about it, someone didn't take it seriously. But anyways,
Did the medication help you in any way?
I don't really know how much it helps compared to me knowing that I took medication for mental illness, compared to me knowing that I took it. I was on quite a lot of medications. By the end of 2019, I think I was taking 8 or 9 medications daily. And 7 of those were for mental health, like depression, anxiety. And then I had a couple that I could take. I had 4 different ones that I could take as emergency meds for anxiety. And then I was medicating for ADHD as well. So I was basically consuming a whole pharmacy every morning. But after
So I also heard very recently there was an Insta post about the American Psychiatric Association. They had a conference in which they are actually interviewing a number of very famous and well-renowned psychiatrists. Like, have they ever treated any patient in their life? And, like, everybody is so honest and genuine. They said that hardly one patient they have treated.
Yeah.
So basically, it is like, I don't know, making one very kind of in a very kind of Darwin state, keeping, or it worsens the symptoms, on the other hand.
Well, about that, actually, from my own experiences, that those prescribing the medications aren't necessarily always interested in treating the root causes.
Oh,
They more interested in trying to dampen them down.
Putting off the symptoms.
Yes. And I told them very specifically, many times, I'm not interested in treating the causes. I'm interested in getting into what the cause is. And that wasn't very well met, because that's not the way they worked.
Yeah.
So eventually he kept going, and I didn't really have much to say about it, It's more like either I do as they say, I get my meds, or I don't, and they'll dismiss me. That's kind of how the game works. And I think it's awful, because it's not the appropriate way to treat someone who's mentally ill. You come to an institution, you're telling yourself about your problems, how you feel, what you believe your life problems are. Okay, we'll put you on Prozac. 2 pills in the morning, 1 pill a day. 1 pill in the evening for 2 weeks. Then you have that down, see how you feel. We'll see you again in 2 months. But the thing is, most of the times you don't get to see them in 2 months. You'll see them once a year or twice a year. So when the meds aren't helping, like, you're on your own anyways, right? Because for me, when I got to Change Clinic, they asked me about the medication list that I have. I'm like, well, this. Like, why are you taking this combined with this? And why are you taking this in the first place? I had some side effects from one of the meds that I was taking. So I would start to shiver.
Yeah.
Both outside and inwards. So I couldn't sit still in one place. It was a living hell, to be honest, because I couldn't sit in a chair. So I was doing some kind of sleep evaluation at another clinic at the same time, and I told him about this. And he told me that people that get this issue, they commit suicide because they get so crazy about it, because they can't sit still. He's like, I remember at home I couldn't sit. So for that, they prescribed me another medication, which is for Parkinson's disease.
Really?
And then when I changed clinic again, it told me, okay, this is a normal side effect of this kind of medication, and there's another medication you can take to get rid of the side effect from the first medication. Yeah, I'm laughing because it's so absurd. So my medication list increased to 12 medications, right? And I still got to see no psychiatrist or see a doctor regularly. So eventually I got good.
I'm sorry.
No.
Wait, then. So recently I got an opportunity to attend a seminar at Karolinska Institute. It was about like suicidal prevention. They have an outlining or department there in Karolinska, and they regularly deliver seminars and us because like especially our channel also like we focus on mental health because that is something that is the context for our channel, and it's not only about the channel. Like I have been deeply like transformed or moved by Sadhguru's tools, and we really want to take it to anyone who is in that need. So in that I would like to become aware of that, what is the situation, how it is being handled in Sweden, and so I have been attending those seminars. So in one of that actually so this particular seminar was talking about people who had been in such a crisis mode, like once they are out from the clinic or from the psychotherapy ward, when they are discharged, that these thoughts might come, this kind of may come back. So how to handle that kind of crisis mode if it comes again? So they have a kind of like checklist, like what do they can look at it, like if they get into such kind of thoughts. So how to ask for help. So many things they have talked about it. So when you were out actually, like after the test attempt, and you have been saying,
Usually there are some different measurements and tools that you're provided, hopefully. Not all places follow this, but you'll get like a crisis list. Like you write up like a crisis plan. What do I do? Do I need certain items? Are there certain people that I can call? Whatnot. And then there's something called like the mobile emergency team. I don't know if this still exists. I know there are certain instances, similar instances around the nation. But at the time they were on like on-call service. So you could call someone up and you just talk to some person you didn't know. I used that myself a few times. I was very reluctant to using it because it's like, it's my business. I don't want to talk to anyone else about it. But it got so overwhelming at a point.
you need help.
Yeah, you just need to let the steam out.
Just that last moment, if one can just show the other side of the life.
Actually, one instance that I used myself, there's something called Kvinnojouren, like the women's shore on-call service. There's something similar in Sweden, but it's extremely small in compare like organization-wise, but it's for men. Women can also call there. But I called them quite a lot during that summer before I did in engineering, actually, and it was extremely helpful just to talk to someone who's not in the system, but more like they're talking to you as a fellow human being, rather than telling you this thought is irrational, or did you take your anxiety meds or whatever. So actually just talking to someone that's not biased is something that's helped me out quite a lot, and especially with someone that I don't know. That was more helpful to me than talking to my mother or my grandparents or my best friend, because they had a history of me, how I've been, and they blend in their own experience into their counseling or whatever they say. But if you call these services, chances are that you'll have someone to talk to that's willing to just listen without talking. Because I remember that was something that I told my grandparents a couple of times, like, could you just be quiet and listen to me? And they would say, well, we have to say something back if you're talking. Oh, you're not ready. Yeah, okay. So I would say that's a great resource to have, because that could literally like be the point where you don't step over to the next step and actually trying to commit suicide again if you have tried before, because a lot of people who fail, they keep trying. And especially the suicidal rate in Sweden is higher amongst men.
Mm.
So that's why I think, like I mentioned, mansjouren is a great resource, because there are men that we're talking to that okay. And I know, like, if you go like how the society has been and is, it's becoming less strained that way now, hopefully, since the last years. At least it seems like that way. But for men, it could be more comfortable talking to other men, because it's been like that for a long time. As a man, you're supposed to suppress everything and not cry. And
This male loneliness is a really very much of an issue
yeah,
all across the globe.
and we need to address it.
Yes. Even though more women are affected, but more extremes like are faced by more men,
Yeah.
almost a double. That's what the statistics says.
Yeah.
But eventually, I know like how you
Children?
you progressed well with the after.
I did. But I've also had episodes where I've been feeling down and not so well at times. And but I've always had the ability to get myself up again. That's been the huge difference from like pre-engineering to post-inner engineering.
I'm still talking about the second before the second attempt.
Oh,
Yeah.
Or
How it
was after the attempt.
after the first attempt, you had been home and you had been taking treatments and taking some help.
I was still working.
Yeah.
Well, I was shifting works, and actually, since I was raised without my father, that longing has always been there. And my grandfather, my Swedish grandfather, during that time, he insisted that I should try to find something out about the family, because we really didn't have any contact. There were no way to communicate, because we didn't have any phone numbers. We didn't have any like addresses or anything. We had an address on a dirham bill, like a Moroccan currency bill. And so he insisted that I would try to find someone, because my grandmother might still be alive. So after the second attempt, this was in 2016. The attempt was in April. This was in November. I just had a day where I looked through old records and things and tried to find a phone number, because I knew I had an uncle in Canada. But it didn't really lead anywhere. So I called one of the neighbors up in the neighborhood area, because I found a lot of numbers. So I just asked, could you please leave a note and explain the situation? But I never got a call back. So I'm like, okay, this is a dead end. But then I started doing research on the net. Facebook, everyone with the same last name. So a lot of profiles. And there were some news articles and everything. So I found out like this has to be someone that's relative to my father. Because I couldn't find anything about my father. So I sent the message on Facebook. Went to bed the day after. I had a reply, actually. So my question was like, do you know someone by this name? And he says he's supposed to have a brother by your name. And then I said, yes, he's my brother. So that was my uncle. That was the first time I got in contact with that family. So I had never spoken to anyone in the family before. So we had a phone call a couple of hours later. Unfortunately, I found out that my dad had passed away, but my grandmother was still alive, and I had a huge family. I started getting phone calls from all over the globe, basically. Yeah, it was really cool. So we went to Morocco in February 2017, and I changed work right before I did that. And then we got back after 2 weeks. And then I kind of got into I don't know, some kind of depression again, because I wasn't able to be there full time. And I got to visit my dad's burial grounds and to see like so much of myself in the whole family. You know, I could recognize so much of me in them. And then when I got back to Sweden, it was like, yeah, it was so overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do with all of this love that I received and all of these feelings.
Missing again.
Yeah, exactly. Missing them, William. Exactly.
Yeah, and I just felt so misplaced. But after that, I kept on working. I didn't start working full time again. And then we had our daughter in November 2017. And I was working for a couple of months, and then the kind of depression, anxiety hit back again. And I was on sick leave for 3.5 years. So that's even after inner engineering. But the second attempt was in July 2019. And
this is after Noah was born.
yeah, it was after Noah was born. And that was really tough on me because I had told myself, like, I can't disappear from that child's life. Because, like, I had lost my father because she doesn't deserve that. Then went on and happened, and no one knew about it until a couple of months later because I was home alone and whatnot. But it was something that began ringing in my mind after that was like, it doesn't matter what traumas that I've been put to or what I experienced, she doesn't deserve to be traumatized because of my traumas, right? So there was always like some kind of striving towards that. Yeah, but at the same time, after that attempt, the worst internal experience of my life peaked, you know? And it kept going for 2 years almost. So after I did engineering in 2021, the beginning of 2021, I did it, beginning of January and finished in the beginning of February. In July the very same year, after 3.5 years of sick leave on full time, not working, not studying anything, not receiving any professional healthcare help for my mental health, I was on out working 70% again.
Okay.
That's really
That's
really.
And I was doing it joyfully. Because there was some talk on my initiative that I would do some like work training to get into activity again, because I felt I don't want to sit home all the time. And then we got into discussion with all of these different authorities, and like, this just gives me the chill to the bones, you know? And I didn't really want to work in the bar again, but it's something that I was very good at and still am. So like, okay, I saw a job application and I just sent my application, a job advertisement. I just sent an application, and like 45 minutes later, they called me up. We want you for an interview. And I'm like, oh, I didn't want you to call me. That's really where I felt. That's it, where I felt. So I went there. Well, I didn't go there because I was on the phone. It was still during the pandemic. So I went to do a shift. I had no idea who my manager was. Like, who am I going to ask after? And they told me some name. And then I got the job. And then I've been working ever since. Basically. I had some kind of small crisis going on actually, where I really got to feel like how to implement the tools again. When the pandemic restrictions hit again, I got unemployed. And I wasn't able to find a new job for 3 months. And I was standing without an income, with the child to support. But you know, I managed to, I got like, I don't know, I managed to support an entire month with 0 income. And I didn't really have any savings, but you know, I was just creative and trying to puzzle things out, and I managed to solve it somehow.
That's really
Without taking any loans or anything like that. So
Really great.
that's really what I took with me from inner engineering as well. Like, the way I look at it has a lot to, like, how I handle it.
Yeah.
The best you can do at that
Yeah.
moment.
But I don't think I've had any moments feeling like, "Oh, this is it forever again," like I had with suicidal thoughts. But I did start talking again, like, with some professionals about the suicidal thoughts when I still had them at 2020, somewhere around there. But there was the same thing there. I was put on the waiting list. But after I did render engineering, I heard there was a lot of people who were on medications, especially like people who were depressed, anxiety. Like, you could see like feedback from the programs that people, oh, I'm no longer on any medications or anything like that. So I was thinking, okay, I'm feeling fine now. I'm just gonna stop as well. I'm that. I started reducing it, but at a very rapid pace, and then I just took them all out, and that kind of backfired on me. It wasn't a very sensible thing to do, because just like you said earlier, nobody wants to stand on 25 different medications or whatever. I wasn't for it at that time, but let's say from over a year's time, I was able to phase them out completely. But I was taking it at a slow pace and not trying to do any rapid things, because I wanted stability to last over time rather than a short amount of time. I wanted it to sustain as well.
Even in Isha also always suggested that you should be continuing with the medication even though when you are taking on the practices. You have to really see that, how balanced and a very daily, day-to-day basis, and then, with the advice of the doctor, only when you should be able to, go down with the medication.
Yeah.
Everybody is really very eager to stop the medication. Nobody wants to be, on lifelong medication, but this is something that everyone really okay, they feel that, okay, this is really working for me, yoga, so then
So that is not usually advised.
Another thing that's from what I've seen sometimes is that when people feel like the practices are working, kind of becomes a little bit like the medication things. Okay, I can skip it for a day or two. I tried some like initially with Shambhavi. That was the way, like I said, like for a day I wouldn't do it and something like that. But I will also feel my mental state would fluctuate like this also. And then you try and find different reasons for what it is. But simply it's like you're doing something that's working, but it needs attention and consistency. And then if you're gonna handle it like a whip, of course it's gonna backlash at you.
Yeah.
So today you are not on any medication?
Today I'm not on any medication. I have medications for my ADHD that I can take if I need, but most of the times I do not do it because there are a lot of side effects to it. And if I manage with ADHD, it's not just about the mental things that you have to balance. It's more like you have to get physically engaged, and especially like with what you consume, like food-wise and what you drink. So if I keep those things in check, it's in a very good balanced state.
And with the practices, you will be able to manage without the medicine.
Yeah, a lot better at least.
But I was just wondering, is ADHD in any ways that is it precipitating the mental health or, aggravating the mental health, or is it very connected both? Or
There are some relations with it. Like with ADHD, you feel more intense, you are more intense, you're a lot more impulsive, you're hyperactive a lot of the times. I'm not very hyperactive. That yoga helped me down a lot with that. But all of these things, and especially like concentration issues, like if you put someone without ADHD and someone with these issues or challenges, so like pros call them challenges, into the same like emotional turmoil, you would definitely see that if you're by nature more impulsive, and you react quickly, you're more like emotional that way, definitely will peak a lot faster than someone who might not be it.
Without.
Both up and down. So I would say that if you're having these challenges with ADHD or ADD or like autism, like apart from the practices, you really need to look after yourselves in all the other aspects of day-to-day life as well. Because I noticed prior to going for Samyama, I was drinking quite a bit of soda, consuming some sugar, stuff like that. For the sake.
Energy drinks.
Sorry?
Like energy.
No energy drinks. I stopped that 3 or 4 years ago. I noticed big difference.
But these are just very plain. Like
Yeah, they're simple things, but also the most difficult things. I stopped smoking cigarettes. It's been 2.5 years now. I was smoking for 16 years.
Oh my God.
And I just stopped a couple of weeks before doing the Shoonya program. And after that program, I never smoked a cigarette again. Because what I feel is like, okay, am I sitting doing all these practices to enhance my health? Am I really gonna kind of poison myself with this? Of course, I felt like, oh, maybe I should have a smoke sometimes, but it's never been an actuality to actually go and have it because it would work against what I'm working with, you know?
Well, that Sadhguru says that, like when we started using the inner engineering tools and the practices, that really bring more conscious, like bring us into a conscious state that wherein we can have a very willful choice of, what works for us, what is good for us. Like we are in a much more balanced state where we can choose, what is near, what is good for our life.
What I was going to say about the Samyama preparations with the 60 days was that, like, what I noticed was I felt a lot cleaner within my body and my mind as well without any stimulants or sodas or caffeine. I'm not a heavy caffeine consumer anyways because I had some issues that might be triggered with caffeine. But I noticed the quite have the difference, and especially being so disciplined in your mindset about not consuming these things, that helped a lot. But it's difficult also because when I grew up, the usual thing was you only have candy 2 days a week or 1 day a week. I mean, if you look at their adults, when they go into grocery stores, it's energy drinks, cigarettes, caffeine. They're always chocolate bars, if not 2, then 5. So, I mean, of course, it's tempting because you see, okay, they're defying the rules. Why should I stick to it, Oh, chocolate on a Sunday sounds so nice. But okay, but you get what I mean. So I found sticking more to that before and after helps a lot for me as well. I'm a lot calmer and I can sit still more. I don't feel like I have to do something every day in that sense.
So what was your experience from doing Samyama? And how was your experience for first time visiting India?
The first time visiting India was I feel at home in that climate,
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Like the warmer climates. It's been the same feeling when I've been going to Morocco, and especially the cultural things as well, how people live in a certain aspect. Because a part of me is from there,
Yeah.
but I've never experienced it at a young age. So it's been a very warm feeling in that sense, and very fun. And it's very different also. Like some things, I noticed that if you're standing in the line, you have to really push yourself in the line if you want to get help or if you want to check in at the airport. Even when I was flying the last flight to India, I was standing at the counter. Someone walks beside me, stands in front of me. Yeah, that is, and the service lady said, "Well, excuse me, sir," but she kept helping me anyways.
Exactly.
I mean, the Samyama program, it was, I didn't have any expectations going into it, really. That's what they usually say, don't have any expectations when they, even for Shoonya in engineering or Bhavaspandana. But people talk about, I heard so many people talk about Shoonya and Bhavaspandana, about experiences and whatnot. So it's kind of difficult to go in with a blank mind. But for Samyama, I tried, whenever I heard people talk about it, it's like, please don't talk to me about the program.
Okay.
I didn't do any Googling or anything.
That's the only way to.
But I would say my approach to the program was just to go in as empty as possible. Okay, good. And I think that was very helpful for me. My experience of it was like, it started settling in a couple of days after, especially when I got back to Sweden, because I went back to Sweden 2 days after. That there were so many like internal walls that were just colliding in front of me. There were certain things that were happening that felt like a crisis, and I went into an emotional state where I was like, wow. I just got to a point where I felt that I didn't even want to eat because I felt so like emotional about it, and that it felt uncomfortable. But as the days progressed, I started to come more to an acceptance about it, and I realized that, okay, these things have to happen the way they want to do, and it's been going that way ever since. And I don't try to interfere so much with it. I just try to go with it. And I see that there are a lot of things happening within me and also around me that I can't put words to. So I would say that it's still an ongoing process, but it was not something that I could really grasp.
Okay.
When I was there, like, it kind of falls out afterwards. But it's a beautiful experience, and the program in itself was quite amazing in many ways, and it's definitely one of the greatest things that I've ever done for myself, if not the greatest.
Are you looking forward for visiting the ashram again?
Yes, definitely, because I didn't get to spend much time there. I mean, I was there for 9 days, but 8 of those days were in silence inside.
You said briefly you got an opportunity to go and sit there in Dhyanalaya.
Yes, I do.
So how was that experience?
I find it difficult to put words to it because I don't like to examine things too much. I like to just try to see them for what they are and just experience. But I found that it was definitely something there that was touching me. Can't say what it was, but I would definitely like to go back.
If I sit in its presence again, you felt an energy.
Yeah, something surrounding me.
Yes.
But something that I felt after Samyama also is that I spoke to another person who participated in the same batch as me, and we both said it to each other that sometimes when we're doing sadhana or yostar, it's like we're still there, you know? Like if I close my eyes sometimes and just sit, it's feeling exactly the same way as I did in the program at that place. So like the physical space is still with me somehow, you know? So that's been an experience that's been quite profound for me. And that's something that I've experienced a couple of times before. Like it felt like I've been in the Analinga or the ashram, even though I never been there. So when I got there, it kind of felt felt familiar as well. But the ashram in itself, I found that was incredible, to be honest. It was like a small town. You're very intensive. And you see people doing sadhana all over the place. And I was just thinking to myself, if someone I knew from Sweden would have come to me here, I was like, what is this? But I think it's a beautiful place for anyone to go to.
Yeah, I think quite few handful of Swedish volunteers are there still. They have like as a full-time volunteer as Porlangas. They are very local. If you get to know, maybe next time and you
Yeah, it would be nice.
yes.
I mean, if the possibility was there for me, I would probably like to go there for full-time volunteering for some time.
That's really on
It is because I felt it felt very felt like a homecoming coming there, and there's been an intense longing for me ever since I heard about after I did energy. It's been an intense longing for me to go to the ashram, but due to the nature of me being a single parent and all of these things, I felt like Samyama of all programs was so remote, but I managed to set the external situation around me so that I actually could go. And that was one of the greatest achievements for me on a personal level, to actually be able to go there.
And definitely from where the state that where you were in 4 years before, this is you would not have believed, right? But if somebody would say that you will be
Yeah. So for me, it's been mind-blowing.
So we have seen that how the mental health issues have affected Alexander Anna, and then how he has found Isha and start seeing Sadhguru, and the tools offered by Sadhguru like Isha Kriya, Inner Engineering Program, advanced programs like Bhavaspandana Program, Shoonya and Samyama Program, how these tools have transformed his life. And today he has a life that he would never ever dare to imagine in his dream even. That life is possible today just because of the transformative tools that are offered by Sadhguru. With this, the second part is completed, and we have one more part, that is the final part, part 3. In part 3, Alexander Anna opens up even more and expresses that at the very moment of crisis mode, how he felt. And also, he expresses his gratitude to Sadhguru for the tools that he is offering today, and how he is involving himself in volunteering for creating awareness about suicide rates in Sweden, and also how he is offering support for the affected family members. And today he is joining hands with us to bring awareness and letting everyone know about the tools that are available, which helped him to prevent the suicide rates happening in Sweden and all across the globe. So without missing, please watch the highlights from the part 3 and see you soon in the part 3. If you find it interesting and if it touched your heart, please feel free to like and comment in the comment section. If in your circle of friends, family or colleagues, if anyone can resonate with Alexander Anna's story of bullying or ADHD, anxiety, depression or even suicidal thoughts, please do share the video with them. This could save somebody's life. If you like our podcast series, please do subscribe to our channel. We will see you soon in Alexander Anna's part 3. Till then, take care, bye and namaskara.
I mean, when we meet in the program, it's just so short time when we are doing volunteering because there's lots to do. And then we cannot have this kind of a conversation.
We have spoken many a times, but we have never had a kind of the deeper conversation
No,
like
no.
this.
Only touched the surface.
Yeah. There's such a big iceberg hiding behind Alex, you know. So it was.
It's actually been quite it's been quite nice to talk about these things, and I haven't felt the resistance especially about the suicide attempts, it's always like you're constricted every time you're talking about it. The first time I really spoke to a lot of people about it was actually when we were sharing the homework in Bhavaspandana. And
If you would have liked our video, I'm sure that you will also like this video as well. Don't miss it. Please do watch it.